you you'll see different benefits because they're studying grains from different areas.
Ah, okay.
Maybe it was from South America, or maybe it was from the Ukraine or from the US.
Mm-hmm.
The bacteria, the specific strains and species will be different.
Hi, everyone. It is Mike the Heal Your Gut Guy, and today we have a special guest. His name is Victor. Say hello, Victor.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you again, Mike.
Cool. Good to see you. Today we're going to talk about the magic of kefir, and Victor is awesome. He brings a lot of awesome information to the ancestral health community. He has his own website and company and newsletter where it's called Vitagenics, and he also reviews the podcasts for the Wise Traditions, the Weston A. Price podcast, Foundation podcast, and so he's knee deep, elbow deep in ancestral nutrition, and we got to talking, and he wanted to share his knowledge on kefir. So
Sounds great. Nice.
yeah, so tell us why we should be eating kefir. How do I say it correctly?
Both pronunciations. Yeah, some people say kefir. Some people say kefir. I usually say kefir. So I hear both pronunciations. So whatever you're comfortable with is fine. So for me, yeah, it's usually my top recommendation for people, regardless of their wellness situation.
Okay.
And the reason is because I consider it to be perhaps the most powerful probiotic food. Between that and maybe fermented cabbage juice is another super powerhouse.
Okay.
But yeah, kefir is it's magical. So,
cool.
Yeah, so you probably have seen people will advertise it anywhere from 30 to 60 different probiotic species. This is if you're making it at home, actually. I don't really recommend the store-bought kefir because it's significantly different. The best will have 10 to 15 species of probiotics.
Oh, wow.
But then you don't know the milk source either, right? So you really want to use raw milk, right? So it's really raw milk kefir that I'm talking about usually when I'm speaking about kefir. So I want to avoid anything that's pasteurized or homogenized.
Yeah. So why would you recommend kefir over yogurt? When we're talking about raw dairy products.
Right. So
making it at home.
Right. If all other things are equal, so we'll assume even if you're making your own yogurt from raw milk, etc. So your yogurt is going to have maybe 2 to 4 strains of different bacteria, and your kefir is going to could have up to 60. Could be less, could be more. And again, we're talking about home bought. So when you purchase or you get your starting culture, or what we say grains, people that make kombucha, they'll say it's SCOBY for the starting culture.
Yeah, because they aren't really grains. They look like grains. They're actually more like a SCOBY on kombucha.
Yeah, exactly.
And SCOBY stands for symbiotic. Do you know what it stands for?
Symbiotic colony.
Okay.
Symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast.
Okay, all right.
And so it's exactly, and so SCOBY it's a perfect description for the kefir grains, because that's exactly what that is also. So it's bacteria and yeast, right? And these are this symbiotic relationship. So, and with the kefir especially, it's very, very durable. If you want to say, it's pretty hard to kill them, right? So they're easy to take care of. They adapt to an environment, so it'll change. So like my kefir grains have been with me for years, from New York to Japan to Costa Rica. I've cross-pollinated them, mixed them with other kefir grains. So if you look at studies on kefir, there are a lot of different studies. You'll see different benefits because they're studying grains from different areas.
Ah, okay.
Maybe it was from South America, or maybe it was from the Ukraine or from the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And so, depending on where it's at, the profile or the bacteria, the specific strains and species will be different,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, ideally, you want them kind of all together, or as many as you can.
That makes sense. And I remember I was talking to Kieran Christensen from Just Thrive Probiotics, and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said probably the number one thing he sees like in a healthy gut microbiome is biodiversity. Like
Yes, exactly.
pretty much all people who have gut issues have low biodiversity, and people who have healthy guts have high levels of
Right.
biodiversity. And as much as I love yogurt, I ate yogurt for a long, long, long time and still had some issues, and it was probably because I didn't do enough to get that biodiversity back in there.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, we
Yeah.
shouldn't, like, I wouldn't even want anyone to be dependent only on kefir,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Get as many fermented foods as you can into your diet, as many probiotic foods. Yeah, so if you only have one, kefir is perhaps the most powerful,
Mm-hmm.
but just let that be only a starting point. So if you do yogurt, great, yogurt and kefir.
Yeah.
And you do yogurt, do a bunch of different kinds of yogurt.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all these different kinds of, whether it's a Bulgaria yogurt
Bulgarian, Greek.
yeah. So incorporate all the different ones. Keep sauerkraut in your diet. Sauerkraut is really, really potent also.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a simple, easy thing. A spoonful here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So kefir, another good thing besides the diversity is you can drink a lot of kefir.
Yeah.
Relatively easily, and by making kefir shakes.
Mm-hmm.
So and these can be delicious, and then you're adding a lot more vitamin content. So when I do kefir, I do a whole process where it takes days because it's aged, it's fermenting with other, like put banana in it. Banana mango was one of my favorites.
You're fermenting the fruits.
Yes. So
Awesome.
you do a second fermentation. And when you do that, you will end up with the full complement of the B vitamins in that kefir.
Oh,
So,
I never thought about that. Okay. Yeah, because
so
the B vitamins are from fermentation.
yes.
Ah.
And just straight kefir alone will have a lot of B vitamins also, but not the full complement. I mean, like all your B vitamins will be there when you ferment it a second time, adding a fruit.
So, how are you making your kefir? I've made kefir a handful of times, and usually you get your grains and your milk, and you let them sit out on the counter for a day or two.
Right, exactly. So the best way, you want to get into a 24-hour cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So and there's a balance, the amount of grains to the amount of milk plus the temperature is going to determine. So you might be over fermenting in that time or not fermenting enough. So you'll find the balance relatively quickly, and then you maintain that balance because your grains are always growing. So then you've got to like take out the grains and eat them, or put them in the blender when you make a shake or something, or throw them away, whatever. Flush them down the toilet. It's good for your septic system. But so that's the basic idea. So I do a fermentation every 24 hours. I change to new milk, right? And then I have my kefir to drink. But I don't drink that. So now I have the plain kefir.
Oh.
And now I put like some banana and mango, and I blend it. And now, ideally, that sits out for maybe the day. 8 to 12 hours, and then it goes in the fridge and maybe sits in the fridge for a couple more days. So it's fermenting. Your kefir will continue to ferment in the refrigerator also. But it slows down a lot, and you don't really want to keep your grains in the fridge often because you'll also change the balance of the bacteria.
Yep.
So the most potent, stable diversity happens at around 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 to 25 degrees Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the best temperature for kefir.
Yeah, I try to, make people aware of, you're sending these bacteria, these microorganisms into body temperature when you eat them.
Yes.
So, it's not a good idea when you put something in the fridge. They're essentially going into this dormant state, and they're not going to be as active when they get into your body. And if you have an infection going, raging in your gut, and you send in sleeping,
Right. They're just
a
waiting.
sleeping army, you're
Right.
just,
Right. They're not ready to fight.
they're
Right.
not ready to fight. Yeah. So, that's cool that you bring that up. But yeah, I've been doing like a sourdough starters, and you'll see their activity level. It's like that first 12-ish hours, it depends on how warm it is, but you watch it, and then it raises, and then that's when you want to bake
Yep.
it. And then, but if you don't get it right then and there,
Yeah. Yep. I
so
love sourdough. Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
like this. Every 12 hours you have to feed the beast to keep
It's like your pet.
those
It's like
populations
your
high.
pet, right? It's
Yeah,
you
you're
think,
feeding this pet in your
yeah,
gut. You're feeding, yeah.
yeah. So
So
you take good care of them, and then they take good care of you.
exactly.
Yeah. I think sourdough is a good example because you really have that very strong visual cue of the dough rising and then sinking again.
Hmm.
So
Do you
yeah,
see that as I need to start making more kefir, but I know you see like some bubbles in kefir, but not
you
much.
can. Well, there's another trick. You can make it effervescent when after you do a fermentation, after you make it, your second fermentation, if you seal the top, you will change. So basically, kefir, you allow it to breathe normally during its fermentation, like we
Yeah.
cover with a cloth.
Yeah.
But then during the second fermentation, when you put like some fruits or something in it, you can ferment it either with just a cloth or a napkin over the top, or you can seal it tight. And if you seal it tight, you will produce more alcohol and some effervescence.
Yep. And
So, and it's still super healthy either way, but you can play with the flavors that way and the feeling.
I'm not sure how the Mongols did it, but they created an alcoholic beverage out of horse milk or mare's milk, and I think it was more of a yogurt than using kefir. But who knows what? I mean, they probably did use kefir because usually that involves yeast, so it was probably more of a kefir than a yogurt.
It could have been. I know there are a lot of different drinks like that. Like there's a lot of different yogurt drinks, right? So like we say that kefir is very much like a yogurt drink, and there's a lot of different ones like that. Do you know in Japan there's a drink called Yakult?
No, I don't know anything about Japanese dairy.
Yeah, this is like a yogurt drink, and it's based off of one specific bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And it started, for health reasons, and then it just kind of became commercialized. I'm not recommending it right now because I really, it's loaded with sugar and et cetera.
So I know how to make yogurt from scratch, and this actually, when I became very frustrated when trying to like look this up on Google, and it's very easy. All you do is you take milk straight out of the cow, and you let it sit at 100 degrees, and it turns into yogurt. Just that easy. And I guess the strains come from different regions because milk's very different depending on what you feed the cow and blah blah
Right.
blah blah. Do you know where the kefir grain comes from? Like, if you had if everyone who had a kefir grain on Earth died and you couldn't go to your neighbor to get one, how would you make a kefir grain? Do you know the answer to that?
I cannot make it from scratch, but you can find that answer because you can look at how the manufacturers do it. So still, like for me, I don't have the capability to selectively go and find each bacterium.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I can't do that. But of course, when you're a larger company, you can actually go and order these different bacteriums and then put them together in a culture.
Okay.
And so, but this is not as powerful as a homemade kefir, because when they do that in the manufacturing process, most of them are like maybe only 5 to 10 strains. The best commercial ones that I have found only go up to 15 different species of bacteria.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
whereas, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if, I mean, I made yogurt on accident many times when I worked on the farm.
Mhm.
Like I would just leave my jar out on the windowsill,
Right.
and it would turn into yogurt the next day when I came to drink it.
Well, you
I'm wondering if you could make kefir grains by like leaving it in the barn. You forget about it, and you come back a month later.
you would need to find. There's a very specific. The name actually comes from one of the species, Kefiri.
Okay.
There is actual species with that name,
Okay.
and that's where it comes from. And so, but that one is not. I don't know what environment. So, for example, nobody knows really where kefir came from.
Ugh,
It's,
I'm not
it's,
buying it.
it's like a myth. It's great to research it. In fact, but the history points to the area where you're at now, like Eastern Europe, Russian, somewhere around there. But they don't
My
know specific.
guess, if it's like a mixture between yogurt and like a sourdough starter or something like that, or a beer starter. That's my guess.
Well, it's got all of that and more, right? Because those
Yeah.
starters are much more limited.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You're
but
right.
you're right. I mean, that maybe that's what happened, right? So, right, you had all of these different fermented foods floating around, and they started to
Mm-hmm.
cross pollinate, and then
Mm-hmm.
this new SCOBY, right, emerged. This new colony formed, right, and so that's what identifies it. So that kefir grain, that colony, is quite unique looking, right? It looks like
Yeah.
rubber cauliflower,
Yeah.
right? And it sustains itself as long as it has food to eat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's you can contaminate it, but you know what? I've never contaminated my kefir, and I've been traveling it with it for years.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
I've never contaminated it. I've never seen it killed by contamination.
Yeah.
You
They're
starve it to death,
it's
of
like
course.
you would have to attack it with another deadly SCOBY and
Right. So I don't know. I don't know what it's vulnerable to. Like, for example, beet kvass is really difficult. It's very easy to ruin beet kvass.
mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
have mold grow on it or something. But which is another fantastic, healthy fermented beverage, by the way. Beet kvass is great, but
Yeah.
that's more difficult.
I noticed that my sourdough starter is very fragile. If I forget to feed it for 3 days, it's like, or 4 days, it's like
Wow.
I gotta start back from scratch because I make my sourdough starters from scratch. It doesn't take too long, but I notice it. You know, if
I've
you,
been lucky with mine. I have well, I don't have it anymore because I moved since I left Japan.
mm-hmm.
But I had maintained an einkorn starter
Oh yeah,
for I'm not sure how many years,
wow,
and yeah, and it was
it's
able to.
dedication.
It was it survived. I mean, I could keep it a week at a time without feeding.
But you were keeping it in the fridge.
Yes, right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So my whole process was when I would make the bread, sourdough bread every week.
Mm-hmm.
So it would come out of the fridge until it'd come out of the fridge, get fed, and then bubble up exactly what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I know, okay, it's active, and then I would take some out
Mm-hmm.
to use for my bread, and then that goes back. That starter would go back into the fridge,
Okay.
and then the part I would take out would get more flour and water, and then wait until it rises, and then I would keep feeding it in steps, like every 6 hours to 12 hours.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I would make the bread over several. It would take me a few days to make the bread.
Cool. Cool.
But
Oh wow, that's really cool. It takes a few days to make the bread. That's like the perfect Way to make sourdough bread and using einkorn. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I loved it. And sometimes I would mix with rye. I play
Okay.
with like a pumpernickel bread.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So,
Now I'm hungry.
oh,
Um,
sorry.
bread and dairy, my two favorite foods. So cool. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add about kefir?
Oh wow, yeah, I could probably speak for hours about the kefir.
Yeah.
Um, a couple of other things. So just real quick. So one, the enzymes in kefir. So another reason why it's so
Yeah.
good. Now, it comes with three different classes of enzymes to help you digest, well, the sugars, right? So the lactose, it has the lactase, but also to digest the proteins and the fats. So when you take in
Yeah.
kefir, everything is pre-digested.
Mm-hmm.
So so the overload or the overhead on your body is so easy.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't have to digest all of that. The proteins are broken down.
Mm-hmm.
The fats are broken down, or they're already pre-digested. And of course, there's only 1% of the lactose that's even left
Yeah.
because the bacteria ate it all. And so the enzymes are really potent. And then you end up with all of these amino acids and peptides, like hundreds of peptides, which are
Yeah.
very potent. And then, of course, we touched upon the B vitamins, but there's so many other vitamins in the kefir also.
Yeah. One thing that you mentioned that you let your second ferment happen in the fridge. I think that cuts down on the sourness.
Yes, it will mellow over time. So, like, I will ideally the second ferment will first be out of the fridge also for like 8 to 12 hours to
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
get it
Get
going.
it started.
Yeah, and then put it in. So we did when I was in Costa Rica. Actually, we had done kind of a test. We made a bunch of banana mango kefir, took it to a restaurant in a bunch of small jars, and then like every week we went back and opened up a jar.
Ah. Oh, okay.
And
This is cool.
yeah, and like 1 month later, it was still delicious.
In
You
the
know,
wow. Okay.
in the fridge. So you're keeping it in the fridge. Now, at that, when I made it, I had already been fermenting for like maybe a week because I do my ferment,
Uh huh.
I age it, then I ferment with the fruit. It's ready to go.
Uh huh.
But then after that, you can keep it in the fridge. It's still alive. It's still fermenting.
Uh-huh.
Stuff is still happening. And it will stay in the fridge for, I don't know, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. At some point, it will start to taste really bad. It will get really, really too sour.
Okay.
Right? It still won't make you sick, but it will taste bad at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, eventually, and then, you'll start to get more die off, right? All the bacteria will run out of food at some point.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
But it lasts a long time, at that point, once you do that first and second fermentation, and then you keep it refrigerated. So that also makes it very convenient, right? It's a really healthy food source. You can store it easily, and then you take it with you in a thermos.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to drink 1 liter or even 2 liters a day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's.
Don't start off with that much because you can get a heavy detox reaction.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you want to start.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Start off maybe half a glass a day if you never had kefir.
I really like that you add fruit or another sugar source to the kefir because when you look at traditional cultures, they were drinking. If you've been in South America, they were chicha, the corn beer. Is that what it's called?
I don't even know because I don't drink alcohol. So
Okay.
I'm
Well, so
unfortunately ignorant.
this was not. They had an alcoholic version and they had a non-alcoholic version.
Oh, okay.
And I've noticed in Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine right now. For everyone who doesn't know, and I'm from America, but I'm in Ukraine right now. And when I go out and I get beers and stuff, I'll drink like 2 or 3, and I won't feel the alcohol effect. And it's because the beer and stuff over here is very low in alcohol. It's almost like drinking kombucha in America. And to me, and when you look at Sally Fallon's nourishing diets, book that she just came out, like the Europeans drank ales all day long, and that was their sports drinks. That was their kombucha, and they weren't alcoholic. They were just fermented, broken down sugar. It's like the original sports drink, and that's really cool with the kefir because you're getting all the milk, the dairy nutrients, and then you're getting that glucose, that energy with it as well. If you do some sort of strenuous job where you're swinging an axe all day long or something like that, or playing a sport.
Right. Yeah, the alcohol is also, it's a good probiotic if you're getting a good beer, like microbreweries, small homebrewed stuff. There's some good probiotic content.
Yeah.
So I'm not promoting drinking, and I drink myself, but still, it's you get the good stuff, and it can be really good.
Yeah.
As long as you don't drink too much. So.
Yeah, I've noticed, like, I will even have the raw beers in America, and they're like 5% alcohol, and I could only have a few before I'm like, But here, I could, like, literally drink, like, five beers. It's the alcohol has got to be under 1% because I don't feel it at all.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so I think they're doing, like, it's interesting. Like, I want to. I've only been here a few weeks, but I want to feel that out more because I've gone to dinners where I've had like 2 or 3 drinks, and I'm like, I've had a shot of something, I don't know what it was, and I had this and that, and I don't feel any alcohol effect, and I think it's more of like enjoy the taste sort of a thing than get crazy, go wild sort of a thing.
Right. The goal is to get drunk. Right.
But they do have that with like vodka and stuff. Like I guess if you want to do that, you drink vodka.
Okay.
Anyways, we've gotten a little off topic with that, but that's really cool that you add the sugar to it.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how much sugar is left by the time. It depends how much you ferment it, right? Mm-hmm. But there are times when I will cheat and put a little coconut sugar.
Yeah.
Actually, recently we tried an experiment with molasses because molasses.
Yeah, how'd that work?
I didn't like the taste. No.
Yeah.
But that's really high in minerals, right? So it was. So that was the reason why I did that.
You tried maple syrup?
Yeah, maple syrup is good. And you know what? Since it's the holiday season, I got my little Christmas hat on. One of my favorite blends, but it's very difficult. I'd make a kefir with apple. Would be my fruit. So I get, the second fermentation would be with apple, cinnamon, maple syrup.
That sounds good.
And even some, brown sugar, like a raw cane sugar.
Yeah.
If you get it just right, like if you had a really good apple, it's like drinking apple pie.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
A couple of times I made it, and it was just like, oh my God, this is heaven. But then other times, you never know. It depends on the apple. Mm-hmm. So it's always a little different when you're dealing with natural foods.
Yeah. It's when you're dealing with live cultures, it's like it's an art, really. It's a science and an art, a merge of the two.
Right, it really is. It really is. So when dealing with your yogurts, and the same with the kefir, like everybody's kefir is different.
Yeah.
And I intentionally try to cross-pollinate mine with other kefir cultures because I want to maintain as high a diversity as possible. And my kefir has been in Costa Rica, it's been in New York, it's been in Japan. So, it picks up some other things along the way. I don't scientifically prove that.
Yeah.
But, you can tell by the way your kefir tastes, by the way it feels. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things. And then you can see from other research where you see, you can go to PubMed or whatever, and you'll see the breakdown of all the different species in kefir. And you'll see different species depending on where they got the cultures from.
And when we say species, that's a species isn't just like one thing. It's like a group of different strains.
Right.
So we say Kefir has 10 species. That means it could have like 50 strains in it.
Exactly. And we often use the word strains, but we're using it incorrectly, actually.
I think I'm guilty of that too. Yeah.
And myself also. In almost most of the places where you read about it, you rarely see the correction made.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's become, popular to use the word strains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but really, when we say that kefir has anywhere from 30 to 60 strains, we really mean species, and then there could be hundreds of strains in there.
There could be hundreds of strains in a single species.
Not
No.
like. I mean, I wouldn't.
Probably like 10.
You'd have to ask
maybe.
a microbiologist about that.
Got to talk to Kieran about that.
Yeah, maybe. I've seen this. I've seen crazy numbers quoted for like cabbage juice.
Okay.
Which actually has less species than kefir, but will often
I would think.
Yeah, it doesn't have as many, but I've seen it quoted with like hundreds and hundreds of different strains. So I don't know if it's because those specific microbes tend to vary more, tend to mutate more, if you want to use that word.
Yeah.
The bacteria, we know they adapt very quickly.
Yes, they adapt really quickly because, I mean,
like a virus, or like any kind of disease, bacteria or virus, they adapt.
Yeah. So when I was in America, from coast to coast, raw milk tasted pretty darn similar, and I've had, to me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that statement? Or
unfortunately, I don't have that much experience. I can't say I've gone.
Okay. So for me, they didn't taste like that different from Virginia to South Dakota to Idaho to California to Washington. It all tasted quite similar. But I've been in Ukraine the past 2 weeks. I've only been 2 weeks. And every time we go to the market and we get it from this person or that person, I tell you the milk tastes very, 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 very different. And I don't know if it's
the breed of cow probably.
I don't know if because in America, if you're drinking raw milk, you're pretty much drinking it from a Guernsey cow, and they're just so popular in America, the Guernsey, the Guernsey breed. So, but in Ukraine, I guess it could be almost anything, and it tastes radically different, and I'm sure it's macronutrients and nutrients in the soil. Milk is so different from week to week, season to season, region to region.
Right.
And
I would say the season would have the biggest impact, right? Your spring, early year, that's going to be the milk. Visually, you can see it's more yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's nutritious.
I'm excited to drink the spring. I'm drinking the winter milk right now, so that's like I'm excited for the spring and the summer milk.
Oh, that's awesome. It will be interesting for us to continue exchanging notes, because you're in another part of the world, and myself too, being in Japan and the U.S. and Costa Rica. It's all these different experiences we can share. Because also, me too, I don't have so much experience, but I've had milk from Jersey cows, and my family's now drinking raw milk from Dutch belt cows, which is a very unusual cow. That
sounds nice.
It's pretty cool. It's this milk has very small fat globules.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so it's the cream doesn't separate so much.
That's okay.
It's not like goat milk. It's not naturally homogenized, but it's closer.
Yeah.
It's a little easier to manage with the kefir, actually.
I would think so. I mean, so doctors that used to do the raw milk cure, they did not use Guernsey milk. They said it was very hard to digest that fat. They actually liked using Holstein. Holstein,
okay.
The cows that are being picked on nowadays. But they went for those small, almost naturally homogenized milks because it's smaller, easier to digest the fat.
Well, if you turn it into kefir, you don't have to worry; it's being broken down for you.
There you go. So
I don't drink. That's another thing. I actually don't drink the raw milk because I'm always drinking the kefir.
Oh, really?
So,
Yeah, I gotta try. Next time I go to the market, you've motivated me to pick up some kefir. So, um, I'm
ah,
gonna.
cool. Yeah, I definitely try it. Even though I was saying don't get commercial stuff, still try it. You're still adding.
Well,
It's
when I
still.
say market, like these are like
Oh, these are
farmers
local.
that go to the market. Like
Right. We had the
it's like
same down.
ladies sitting on a table with like a jar of raw milk in front of them, and it's like
Right.
still warm.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're actually getting, if you get kefir there, it's really homemade kefir.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic.
So,
Oh, good stuff. I wish I can cross pollinate my grains with grains that you get there. Maybe one
well,
of these days we'll do it.
yeah. When we match up, I'm sure we'll meet up one of these days and we'll do that. We'll have a
That's good.
kefir grain party or something.
Cool.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Any last words on kefir?
get it into your diet
There we go.
and enjoy it. It's one of the most. It's really fun because you can play with all these different flavors.
Hmm.
Banana peanut butter kefir shakes are like my favorite recently.
Okay. All right.
Uh, yeah, so there's just there's so many different things. You can make it a chocolate shake if you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have fun with it. Even if you're putting even if you want to put ice cream in it, you're still getting all that probiotic content, all the vitamins, the minerals, the enzymes,
Yeah.
and that's the goal, right? You get the good stuff into your body, and then you can enjoy more of the bad stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's a cool tool. You want to get your foods to pre-digest themselves so you don't have to do that work. I mean,
Right.
it's like your body's like a business, Get resources in as efficiently as possible so you
Right.
can
Outsource that work.
outsource it. Yes,
Yeah,
outsource it. There we go.
Yeah, definitely.
Outsource your digestion.
Yeah, and I have a lot of these detailed, like technical details. I have in an article on my site. I have a couple of kefir articles, but
Okay. Yeah, we'll link to the his Victor's website has so many awesome articles, very detailed, and we'll link to them down below. We'll link to a few
okay,
articles about kefir, and
deal.
yeah, and
Well,
what's that?
no, I was going to say, glad we got to speak about kefir on your channel.
Yeah, I don't talk about kefir much. I need to talk about it more.
Well, I'm sure once you start getting it into your own diet, you'll fall in love with it.
Yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, it's the biodiversity, and it is easier to make because a lot of people, depending on where you live, it's struggle to find a good yogurt maker because most yogurt makers are a piece of crap. You can only make like a cup at a time, where
Right.
you're like fiddling with the water heater. Whereas with kefir, you just put it on your counter. You'll be fine.
Right. Exactly.
So,
And it'll survive a pretty good range of temperature. So
yeah.
good deal.
Cool.
All right.
Cool. All right, guys, go down below and check out Victor's website. It's a lot of awesome information. Go check it out, and we'll have him back on the channel sometime soon. So cool.
Yeah. As soon as I get settled back in Japan, I'm headed back there.
Yeah, I
after
want
the
to hear some I don't know much about. I just had some Wagyu A5 Wagyu beef, and I want to learn more about it. It's like Japanese and
Right. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to have a podcast on that. The whole beef thing and the Japanese beef. That's pretty interesting.
because cattle have been part of Japanese culture for a long time.
Yeah. I can't say off the top of my head.
But before the Europeans got there, for sure.
Yes. I would say so. I could be wrong though. I mean, they're more of a pork.
Yeah,
Like,
they're definitely more.
Yeah, I can tell you, like the Okinawans, who were the longest lived people in the world, they sustained themselves
Oh yeah.
eons, or I don't know how long, but so long,
Yeah.
off of pork and lard,
Yeah.
meat for diet. So
Yeah, I'm curious how long, because I know yaks and water buffalo have been in Asian culture for a long time.
Right.
Who knows where the cow originated from? There's
Right.
like the Middle East or whatever, but
That sounds like a good video topic for
That's
us.
another time, guys. But all right, guys, we'll see you later. Bye bye.
Okay, thanks. It's been great. Talk to you soon.
All right.